Before we get to your scheduled video, please remember that likes and comments tell YouTube to promote our work to other people, and subscribing to the channel tells you when something new drops. You can also head to the link tree in the description to peruse my books, join us on Discord, or support us on Patreon. You can get episodes of Journey of Wrestling and Violent Profiles early, as well as a load of other treats. Even just $1 a month earns you a name drop for being cool. Thanks for listening, and enjoy the show. Greetings and salutations, fellow denizens of Anime McDonald's world. It is I, Eric J. Chucky, joined as always by the boy.
Hey.
This is the Two Nerds Podcast, and today we are talking about Season 3 of What We Do in the Shadows, as commissioned by a very cool guy, a guy from Ohio. You too can force us to watch something of reasonable length by subscribing at the, I believe, $15 dollar tier on our Patreon. But it only takes $1 to be cool. Do you know anybody who's cool for at least $1?
Yeah, I know several people.
Okay.
The aforementioned guy from Ohio, of course. Distrucity KTL.
Right.
On the tip of your tongue. Passion Killer 711. Rob and Harmony, I believe.
You are correct. That is not the villain from a late season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It is a different person, I'm told.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Okay. Yes, so in a guy from Ohio's continuing quest to force us at financial gunpoint to watch What We Do in the Shadows, here's Season 3. To catch you up on the last two podcasts, go watch them, please. You know what? Also, do me a favor and go to I Can't Believe It's Not Punch-Out! Violent Profiles video. Nobody watched that. I'm stunned to think that more people might watch this than watched that. So please, I would appreciate it. Like and subscribe and all that stuff I say in the intro.
Anyway, spoiler free? Are we doing that? Are we doing that for this still, do you think?
You know, if you liked the first two seasons, I guess keep watching it.
Yeah, I suppose. That's not always true for a TV show.
No,
there are TV shows where if you like the first two seasons, stop now. Game of Thrones. If you like the first 4 seasons, but for the love of God, stop. Get off the boat while you can.
I have to say this is maybe not my favorite season, but it is the one that finally turned the corner for me. I think I can just say I like this show. I like the characters. I'm really looking forward to watching the next season. I'm glad that they're getting at least one more season, so we will end up having a total of 6 to cover, I believe.
And maybe a movie. Then they can they can do the meme.
That's the dream, the meme dream. And I think it's because a lot of the characters, with one exception, got a lot of depth in this season.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest departure of this season from the previous seasons. In the previous 2 seasons, you know, the characters had fun bits they were doing, but oftentimes they didn't really have much in the way. The vampires didn't have much in the way of character development. Guillermo did.
Yeah, Guillermo's been developing this whole time.
But the first 2 seasons, the vampires themselves, not so much. This season, that changed. All the characters went through like an arc for the season. Mm-hmm. And their personalities changed, and they reacted to their situations in ways that bespoke people who are able to learn lessons and can grow as people.
It's kind of funny because in that way this show has done the opposite of what most series do, where they start out with I'll use Scrubs as an example, where they start out with compelling narratives and interesting characters and deep but flawed individuals trying to do their best in a situation
with realistic character growth.
Mm-hmm. And then end up being just dumbass joke-a-day sort of
cartoonish versions of themselves. So much so there is in fact a trope name for it based on Ned Flanders.
But no, this is kind of the other way around.
Yeah.
So far, anyway.
So far, hey, yeah, maybe next season won't be the case, but I really liked this season, and I think you're absolutely right. This season is the one that made this a show that I enjoyed watching, that I was watching for the podcast, to a show that I like.
Yes, and that is the same thing. I have been enjoying it. I just have so little patience with television. A friend of mine recently started watching Castle. And I guess this is how the normies do it, not me anyway. She told me that she was on season 4 and hadn't decided if she liked it yet. And I can't fathom getting past episode 4 and not sure if I like a show.
That's the thing. You know what? They say that all the time. Like, hey, you got to give it the first couple seasons, and then it'll be great.
And yeah, and
no.
I always react to that with how and why.
I react to that with literally the word no. No, there are so many things I could watch. Why would I waste that much time on a thing that isn't good yet? You don't get that much lead-up time. This was being financially remunerated. Is that how you say that?
We got money.
Yeah, we got money. Brain does not know how to actually pronounce that word, I guess. But we were being paid a small amount to watch this, so they actually got the 2 seasons lead up they wouldn't have otherwise gotten, and now I like the show.
Yeah, I guess just most people have more patience for just sitting there and watching a TV show.
Well, for a lot of people, that's just what you throw it on in the background while you're doing other stuff. Whereas,
I do that to a certain extent, but not, if I care about it. Like, I'm not going to watch Barry in the background. Barry has been recommended to me. I watched the first episode and went, okay, I get it. I'm not interested.
I watched the first season of Barry, and I believe I got partway through season 2 and went, I think I'm done here. And then I left.
Not that it's a bad show or anything. No, I just don't care.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. I'm hypnotized because the 2 part of our logo, we can see the logo as we record, looks yellow while the nerds looks pink, and that shouldn't be based on how I do that.
It's very interesting. Maybe it's like a visual effect because of all the various like green and purple.
Yeah, like an optical illusion.
Yeah, that's neat. I'm hypnotized because the little W kind of lines up with Nandor's fangs, and I like.
Well,
that.
see, that's me being intentional with my.
That's good. That's good. That's good shit.
Like he's about to eat the rest of it.
Yeah, exactly. He took a chomp, and now there's more.
Speaking of Nandor, his character arc is depression.
Yeah, he just gets depression. You know how... so actually, that's a fun little departure. For most of the vampires in What We Do in the Shadows, with the movie and TV show, they don't have the immortality bites trope, the trope where being an immortal is a terrible, awful experience which you wish you could escape. No, they're all pretty jazzed about it. Nandor finally is the first vampire to actually have that happen, and in this show, and I find that their take on it as just kind of being like it's just depression. Like, it's not a special kind of depression; it's just regular depression that he has.
I think the other cast members mentioned that he gets like this sometimes. So maybe it's the first time we're seeing it, but it's not the first time it's happened to him specifically.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is just he's having a down time.
Year or whatever. Do we want to do this episode by episode? We usually do.
I think we can. That sounds fun.
Okay. that's an enthusiastic approval of this idea. So the first episode, The Prisoner.
We follow on right from the end of the previous season, where Guillermo had rescued all of the vampires by basically killing all the vampires who were trying to kill them. And they have imprisoned him. We pop back in. It was like a month time skip, and he's been imprisoned for a month.
Quote unquote imprisoned. They don't lock the door. He just leaves.
No, they do lock the door. He leaves anyway because they're morons.
Well, yeah. I wasn't happy that he was wasting all that chicken breast. I feel like give that to the homeless or something.
Well, they do let it warm up to room temperature for a couple days before they give it to him. So...
Because that's how he likes it.
That's how he likes it.
There are some small jokes of the quality that's been in this show overall, but stuff like because that's what they think I eat, that just speaks to their absolute detachment from reality as we know it, and it tickles me. It was kind of it was a good episode. I'm glad that so what else happens is that the faraway vampire super council is like, hey, you guys are the now council here.
You guys whooped a bunch of ass, and I mean, we like that kind of initiative here on the Vampire Council. You're in charge.
Yeah, so there's a story arc through basically the first half of the season where Nadja and Nandor are jockeying for control of the council because there should only be one.
It is specifically because there is one chair. There is no conflict between them until there is the one chair, and then who gets to sit in the chair becomes a very important thing.
For like a few minutes, Colin Robinson is also interested, but that changes like basically immediately.
Well, he was already on the Vampire Council, so it's just sort of not real big change for him.
Yeah, he was arguing over leadership at the end. He was helping to fight over the chair, if that's what you can call that. But they dropped that in favor of his other story arc. Being curious about where psychic vampires come from. He doesn't remember his parents and that sort of thing. So when they inherit the council positions, they also inherit all their cool like D&D magic items and their library full of knowledge.
Which makes for a bunch of fun bits throughout the setting. Throughout the whole season, and that's fun. That's episode 2, I think, is where we get into that.
Yeah, we dig into that there. Nandor wants love. The first half of the season is also setting up why he's depressed. And there's a girl at the gym he's really into, but she's a lesbian. And they put a lot of effort into trying to woo her for him.
It actually is a fun little triplet joke.
Yeah, it's really good.
One of the magical items they have from being in the Vampire Council is a cloak of duplication, which is essentially disguised self, but for one person in specific. So Nandor is unable to approach this lady he has a crush on. So he asks local, incredibly chill woman-getting dude, Laszlo, to do it for him. Laszlo cannot be fucked to do that, so he tries to get Colin Robinson to do it. Colin Robinson utterly fails, and then comes back and says she's obviously not into dudes. So
yeah, despite the fact that it's because he's being a creepazoid.
So Laszlo tries. He also fails. And says she's obviously not into dudes, despite the fact that it's because he's being a creepazoid. And then it turns out she actually isn't into dudes, and that's a very funny triplet.
Yeah, it was good. And then the brief kind of awkward argument. These actors, I don't know if it's in the script or if it's ad lib or just a combination of both, but they have a great candor for conversational clumsiness that is still good dialogue, and maybe a lot of it's in the editing too. Like that's entirely possible, because they have this conversation, and she's convinced that Nandor's into Guillermo because at one point Guillermo goes in disguise as Nandor, and that's that whole thing. But he's like, so you're into women? And she's like, right, like you're into guys. And he's like, no, I'm also into women. And she's like, well, I'm only into women. This is very good, very awkward, much better than I just did it.
Very it's so that sort of dialogue, awkward, intentionally awkward dialogue, can become the kind of thing I want to turn off very fast.
Yeah, there's a fine line you have to walk for it not to be cringe in the traditional sense. That's why I choose to celebrate it here, because they execute it well. And it's very realistic too to a conversation, and not just knife twistingly awkward.
Yeah, I like that. I like that they don't overdo it.
Fortunately, in the next episode, Nandor recovers and gets back together with Gale.
He's a parent, on again, off again lady friend who we've never seen before, but vampires live a long time. That makes sense.
Yeah. This one was okay.
The joke here was mostly Nandor's wee-wee is out.
The best part of this episode was Laszlo and Colin Robinson fixing up Laszlo's old jalopy.
Yeah. That actually, this is a good time to highlight, Laszlo is the best fucking character in the show this season. I mean, he kind of usually is, but he has an actually really good, interesting character arc this season.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It turns out he keeps trying to make her a vampire. She keeps refusing. Turns out she's a werewolf. Recently, that hurts his feelings, and
the series of wacky adventures happens. She ends up becoming a vampire, And apparently some sort of horrible hybrid, because when she turns into a bat, it is a wolf bat, and that's bad. And that's just a fun stinger. That's the end of the episode. We never see Gale again.
Maybe in future episodes. Oh, I meant to say that the guide, I brought that up and then had to explain it. I'm glad she's around more. I like her actress. I'm glad she stuck around.
Yeah, she becomes like a secondary character.
Yeah, that's
like
nice.
A little better than their neighbor guy tier.
Yeah. Speaking of which, wow, what a great segue. The vampires go on a vacation to Atlantic City with the neighbors because they're celebrating their anniversary. Neighbor guy seems a lot less...
He's got over the brain scrambles.
Yeah.
Good for him.
This was a pretty good one. This kind of turned the season around for me. Not that it was bad before, but like...
No, you're absolutely right. This was a fun little, like... getting away from the usual environs. This is a fun episode.
I believe one of your most hilarious points was in this episode with the Bazinga.
Oh my god, yes. In the episode, Nandor, in the beginning of his depression phase, becomes obsessed with the video poker machines, specifically the Big Bang Theory video poker machine, which then leads him to watching the Big Bang Theory show with Colin Robinson,
and learning about how the universe works,
as opposed to whatever
as
wacky
being on the backs
ancient
of
guy,
four turtles and
as opposed to the Discworld theory of world building. That Colin Robinson teaches him about how the world actually works, seemingly as like a genuine desire to teach him and as a desire to make his life worse, like Colin Robinson likes to do. Mm-hmm. It's both, which is nice, but it really craters him into depression zone.
Well, and even worse,
seeing him turn and look directly into camera and go, "Bazinga is the war cry of Sheldon," is... that one's gonna live in my heart for a while.
Even worse for all of them, the room service cleans up the soil from their homelands that they need to recuperate their powers. So Guillermo has to go like on a swift mini vacation to collect a bunch of soil from their homelands. That was kind of fun too. This was like a really good example of a bottle episode because while the plot is wrapped up entirely within the episode, stuff happens that affects the characters going forward.
Yeah.
So it still is part of the overall narrative that we're running with through this season, and I really appreciated that.
Next up is the Chamber of Judgment.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the hell happened in this one.
This is the Boys' Night episode.
Oh, the pillow.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. This was kind of a sleeper.
This one it was a transitional episode.
Yes.
Basically, the big things that happen in this episode are Guillermo attempts to become the power behind the throne of the Vampire Council and succeeds too well.
Or fails just enough.
Both, I think. They get a fun dog, and...
we bring back one of the vampire hunters from last season, who is a vampire now and kind of crap at it.
Turns out no one ever told him the rules, so he's just been doing a bunch of against the rules shit.
Right. It's all right. This one was fun with the sire. So when they inherit this is episode 6 of this season. When they inherit the Vampiric Council, like the first vampire ever is trapped in the basement.
Yeah, the sire, the oldest vampire ever recorded, who all vampires descend from. It's like a throwaway gag. Never open this door. I think Laszlo immediately opens the door. Or it might have been Colin. I can't remember. And there's like a horrible, there's like a horror movie scare roar. And then he closes the door and goes, "Right, never open the door. I got it."
Yeah.
6 episodes after that, we come back.
I love how effortlessly, for whatever reason, the show has like a really good CGI budget.
I don't know that I'd say really good.
For a TV show, for a sitcom.
For a sitcom, it's very impressive, but the sire does look like a claymation figure, kind of.
I mean, he's obviously CGI. Same thing with the gargoyles that show up in this episode, and but I was also glad because the Baron comes back. Turns out he's been alive this whole time.
Yeah, well, he was alive when they originally buried him. There was like a little stinger where his eyes started to glow, and they tossed him in.
Yeah, I must have missed that, but
yeah, it's absolutely right in the episode.
I believe you. I just I was in fact watching this while doing something else, especially in the first season. But I was just glad to see him back. I liked his character. I liked that he's not upset about it.
Yeah, he clearly doesn't really remember what happened very well.
Yeah,
and
not
he's
super
just
clear.
not super mad about it. Like, it happens.
This was one of those episodes where I liked that it wrapped up with like everything kind of working out.
Really unexpectedly, everything just sort of worked out.
I expected someone to die stupidly, and no, the Baron is just like, oh, I know the ancient vampire language. The sire just doesn't want to be locked in the basement anymore. And him and the Hellhound and the Baron go move into a nice little split level in the village.
Yeah, not good for them.
Yeah, I'm really happy for him. Is this my favorite episode of the season coming up? This is right here.
Really? Really? This one?
Yeah. What was the A plot? The ghost doll runs away. I was kind of tired of that, but
I think that one was honestly the B plot.
was it? Okay.
Like, they were both equal, but definitely, I mean, the name of the episode is The Siren.
Sure. Man, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be, if I can call it that, goblin tier honest.
Oh, all right.
Colin Robinson recognizes himself a fine woman with a heavenly voice. And it's fine that she eats whole fish. Who could care? That's okay.
Shits on people's shoes.
Well, we all have our accidents. My lower half isn't a chicken. Maybe that's difficult. Maybe cloacal control is hard.
That's true.
And who am I to judge? I just thought it was a lot of fun. And again, this is more of like Laszlo's weird bonding time with Colin Robinson, which I've really been enjoying all season.
Yeah, the whole season, like, Laszlo and Colin Robinson split off into like a pair, as Nandor and Nadja are like being the vampire council, and they're mostly bickering at each other. Fucking Laszlo and Colin Robinson are having the boys' wacky adventures together.
But yeah, like the CGI on the ghost possessing different items was pretty decent in this episode too. It was okay. I don't care for the ghost as a plot device, but that is to say, Nadja's ghost. For those of you who haven't been watching along, what's wrong with you? I'm waiting.
I think Nadja's ghost showing up as like a character rather than like a prop again so suddenly was interesting.
I just feel like this was somebody in the writer's room's idea that they entertained and maybe shouldn't have.
This was very much reminiscent of the plots of the previous seasons.
Sure.
Where just some wacky bullshit happens, and then by the end of the episode, the wacky bullshit is over.
Right. But, yeah.
Explain beyond just the fineness of Colin Robinson's taste. Is that what draws you to the episode? Or?
I really liked the way the character was portrayed. I liked the humor of their interpretation of a siren. Like, in all aspects, it just was really amusing to me. I like that Colin Robinson was, like, not under a spell, but was genuinely into this woman, and, like, Laszlo could not process that.
No. Yeah.
Laszlo is funny as hell. And I like that he did the thing you expected, which is immediately bail on his friend to save his own skin. But in fact, he was going to like get supplies to help him out. And there was just a lot of really good character moments here. And we really, lead up to what happens in the next episode, where Nandor just absolutely stops giving a shit about who's in charge of the council, and it's just like, it's fine, it's Nadja. I don't care, because it's Nandor's birthday, sort of.
I think they call it Ascension or Accession Day.
Yeah, it says here on the Wikipedia, it's celebrating the anniversary of his becoming supreme viceroy of his home country. That period's really small, and I was going to say his home country, Guillermo. But that's not where he's from, unless there's some weird reveals coming in the future.
Which, since we haven't seen an Accession Day in the series yet, that implies that, this series so far has taken place during less than a year.
Yeah,
that's
maybe.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But Nandor is... this is, I think, the nadir of Nandor's depression.
Yes.
Where he just has... He even does the rant of nothing means anything. Eternity is bullshit. I'm alone in the world.
So he joins an obvious cult.
Just a really obvious cult of humans. Vampires who rip out their own fangs every morning and pretend to be human.
And do jazzercise.
And he really loves it. And it really turns his life around and makes him happy and makes him feel useful and welcomed and a part of a community. And Guillermo's codependent ass takes that away from him.
It's difficult to say, because whereas I am fully willing to believe that Colin Robinson was just into the siren, mostly because when she wasn't singing, he was still down. And that was clearly not the case with Laszlo.
Right.
Who is as weak-willed as...
a thing that is entirely weak-willed.
Yeah. Whereas this is exactly like what cults do.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Look, two things are true simultaneously. One, Nandor was brainwashed. They at the end of the episode make it clear that this was a cult, and the lady running the cult absolutely knew what she was doing. And two, it actually was very good for him psychologically. It pulled him up from a very dark place.
Yeah, and that's how cults get you.
Like, it was... Look, it probably wouldn't have stayed good, but he's a vampire. He lives forever. If he spends 150 years in a cult, what's that? Like a long weekend? He would have been fine. But Guillermo couldn't let go.
Yeah, and good for him.
Yeah, because, at the same time, Guillermo had a very good point of, you're obviously being brainwashed, I need to get you away from this. But I like that it was both. Because it wasn't just that Guillermo was doing the thing to protect his friend. It's that he was doing it because he's incredibly codependent and doesn't want to let Nandor go.
This brings us into an actual birthday. Not an Accession Day.
Yeah, this is Colin
Robinson's birthday. His 100th birthday. Where a lot of things are revealed.
Yes. Nandor decides he's going to go into a super slumber for several hundred years and escape this time in his life because it's become bullshit and he hates it.
I love how so much of the vampire lore could be cool and legit if they used Latin words for super slumber, but they don't.
No, I love how they do interesting vampire lore in the most mundane and lame way possible as a joke, and it's a really good joke.
Yeah.
They have a bunch of very high vampire muckety mucks, including Donald Logue, just the actor. I like that both Wesley Snipes and Donald Logue are vampires in this universe, just regular vampires. Wesley Snipes is a daywalker, to be fair.
Yeah.
And there's that, and then Colin Robinson's 100th birthday is that day, and he doesn't want to share his birthday with the big party that they're throwing for the high vampire people. And it all comes together into a bunch of big reveals, which actually were built up and foreshadowed through the whole season.
Yeah.
Which is very fun.
Yeah, I love continuity. I am a slut for continuity. there's a point early on when they're investigating Colin Robinson's, how psychic vampires work, and they're looking through books in a library, and Laszlo just like after Colin's talking about how important the books are, Laszlo tears out a page.
Like, just rips a page right out, and it's played like a gag at the time because Colin turns around and goes, "Why did you do that?" And he goes, "You whack off your way, I'll whack off mine." And that's such a Laszlo thing to say that no one questions it. And then the reveal at the much later episode is that no, Laszlo remembered something about psychic vampires in that book, went and found it and tore it out so Colin wouldn't find out that psychic vampires die on their 100th birthday.
So it's a big, complicated episode with a lot going on. Honestly, it felt like a slightly shorter movie. You could have an entire film with just this premise. The birthday of a man who doesn't know he's dying, coinciding with a guy who isn't dead, but they're pretending is, and a giant party full of fancy people.
Yeah, this is
fantastic setup.
This is the climax of the season, and it's real good.
At the end of it, Colin Robinson farts a lot and dies.
And I think it's Nandor who doesn't believe that Colin Robinson is dead because Colin Robinson has done this like 5 times, I guess. But no, he died.
And I think they did this well, actually, because this could have been one of those like Taika Waititi moments we've criticized before, you especially.
Mm-hmm. I have.
Not that I don't know how much he actually had to do with this episode. The writing team is different people, but whatever. The end of Thor Ragnarok, when, the entirety of...
being not being willing to sit on a down moment long enough to let it rest, to immediately go for a joke.
Right, but in that, as Colin is dying, he is releasing horrendous farts. It's never that down of a moment. To where Nandor doesn't believe he's actually dead and accidentally crushes his entire head as he's trying to wake him up. Like, if it were treated as really sad and really grave the whole time, that would have been really arresting. And I don't know, in a good way. But,
whereas, because it never goes really all that far down in tone, it's smooth. The journey is smooth across.
Yeah. We also reach kind of an apex in the next episode. Guillermo has been losing patience through this whole series, really, but especially in this season. And he insists that everybody needs to, mourn over Colin Robinson, and they're not doing it right, which is very in character for him. And I love that he's being very insistent about it because it's showcasing how, to put it bluntly, much less of a bitch he's being. Even if I don't agree with him, everybody mourns in their own way. It's character development, and that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's also a development of his... This also has a big development in his... he wants this group of vampires to be like his found family, and they just aren't. So he's codependently trying to keep them together desperately.
But also without actually saying anything committal.
No, he's trying to trick them into staying around.
He actually eventually has a pretty cool fight scene with Nandor.
Yeah, honestly, for this show, that was a pretty cool fight scene. And Guillermo wins.
It's better than anything in Echo.
Oh, wow, it really was. Oh, that's not good.
No.
Whoo! No, you talk. I have to sit with that for a second.
So Nandor agrees to turn him into a vampire.
After they're going to go on a big world tour, and they're going to go to Nandor's homeland, and when they get there, he's going to turn him into a vampire, which is honestly a really cool and actually would be a cool thing in a regular non-comedic vampire property.
It's very heavily implied that he's not lying. Just by the way his growth has happened over this season, Nandor's, that is to say. Because at first he was like, I'm not going to, when he was in the...
Well, he's never said he will before. He's
sure.
Like, you're going to turn me into a vampire? He's like, nah. He kind of yada-yadas past it. He's never actually looked Guillermo in the face and said, I will turn you into
this is the plan. This is when we'll do it. Instead of just, putting it off nebulously. But because of a discovery Laszlo made that we don't find out about until the ending stinger, instead of going off on a journey with his wife, he locks Guillermo in a coffin with some snacks and a poop hole.
Laszlo does, yeah.
Yeah, and sends him off to guard his wife on the journey because he must return home and take care of newly born baby Colin Robinson. Because apparently psychic vampires just hatched from their shell or something.
Bum, bum, bum. Join us next time on What We Do in the Shadows.
I'm a little nervous because I don't like babies.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
But I
think this is really interesting and cool character development for Laszlo.
Yes. He has just been such a delight. And knowing, like, it's not the reveal...
Sucks for Guillermo, to be fair.
Sure. No, the reveal that Laszlo knew this whole time what was going on, and because he actually has a heart, was like, no, I gotta big up my pal. I gotta make sure his last week or whatever on this earth is fun. Yeah, man, let's go have a guys' night with our friends. Yeah, you can come along with us to Vegas, even though we never invite you to anything.
And we all kind of hate you.
Yeah, let's go on a boat to find out the origins of your family.
Let's fix up my old jalopy together. It'll be fun.
Yeah, it was just really good. Really good character development that I was glad to see. And I'm excited for the next season. Even if I hate a lot of dumb baby jokes, it should be...
I'm interested to see where it goes.
Yeah.